Mic test. Hello. Hello. My name is Anna, and I am the creator of Pick Your Potion, where I love to share tips and tricks on how to be your own self healer. And in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about trauma anniversaries. And I've had very intimate experiences with these over the last few years in particular. And I believe this is due to a number of different reasons. Before I dive into the reasons, I want to share the connection that trauma anniversaries have to addiction and why I feel more people need to understand them. Because when it comes to addiction, from my experience, we are thrown into this way of believing that we have a disease, there's no way to cure it, and that's just how it is, and we have to suffer in this life and find peace and, um, live like every day is possibly our last, and that might seem a little bit melodramatic, but the way that I experienced um, sobriety was not in the most positive light, just because I believe that it was more so thrusted upon me because I was not understood. I do believe that a lot of people who have addictions simply have um, generational trauma that is cropping up, and that combined with sensitivities lead them to a life where they seek numbing. And I believe a lot of people in our day today truly seek numbing, but some are deemed okay and some are deemed not. But what can happen with trauma anniversaries is once you get sober, your body, because you are no longer numbing, will start to remember things. And I believe that a lot of our therapies do not incorporate this understanding of trauma anniversaries, where your body can remember past events and experience them like not a day has passed. And I, having experienced this multiple times on my healing journey, definitely understand how they can be painful, because one, other people aren't able to understand the intensity of these experiences. Also, because they tend to come years later, people may not want to take any accountability. They might call you crazy. I know the first time I pulled out a trauma that really started my healing was around an event that happened to me when I was really young. And I pulled it out of my third chakra when I was at work, and my whole body went into a full on convulse. And this is what I would call a spiritual psychosis, because it was such a big energy release. I was flooded with all these emotions, and my family did not support me. And it's been a topic that's not really been talked about, and I had to walk through it on my own, which was, I still feel the pain in my heart around that, because there's been a lot of times on my journey where I have not been supported by my family in a way that I deserved. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that, being an addict or not, can really relate to that pain. And I do believe this happens for a number of different reasons. And one of them is simply the people who carry the burden of shouldering the addiction of the family or the big secret or whatever it is tend to be shamed, because people don't want to acknowledge that darkness. And I also believe that so many people in the world that we live in today are barely scraping by energetically and emotionally. I realized this about my parents, that it's not that they didn't love me, they literally just couldn't handle the stuff that I was bringing up, because I was a child that would ask questions. I had these big emotions, big feelings, and I would express this way of being that was not socially acceptable, but also just brought up a lot of stuff for them. So it was easier for them to ignore me rather than console or work with me. And when it comes to trauma anniversaries, there have been a few that have really stood out for me on my journey. One was around that trauma, and a few of the other ones actually stem from when I quit smoking cigarettes, because cigarettes tie into grief. And every time I've quit smoking, big traumas have come up and out of my body because my body's finally allowing all that grief to surge to the forefront. And the two that I'm going to share with you today, because they really tie in together, is how last year in August I had a trauma anniversary come up around an event that I didn't feel that I had stuffed down, and that was around a fight that I had with a person I was dating, and it was volatile, and because I wanted to be with that person, I stuffed it down. And because a year had passed and I'd been doing my healing work, and I had the space to allow it to come up because I had quit smoking at that point, I was able to be with it, relive it, and it was very painful. And I could see why this would drive people back to using, because these emotions are like not a day past, and that is very overwhelming. And it makes sense to me because I always ask the question of, why is it that people who, when they go back to using, act like not a day has passed? But if something is triggering those past traumas to come up and out, of course they're going to use as if they've never not used, because if that energetic hole in their soul, in their energy field, has been there and it hasn't healed properly and been addressed properly, then of course it's going to be like nothing passed, because it's still there. It's just been uncovered, and I believe that a lot of people aren't given the tools to process and heal. And that's been my journey, is to understand not only how the body works, what addiction is, but a system in which one can process these woundings, heal their energy system, heal their body, so their physical body is free of pain, as well as their emotional and mental body as well. And on my journey, I found that they are very intimately connected, and they are connected through 5 different systems. One being the aura, another being the chakras, the third being the meridians, the second being the physical body, and the 5th being the pathogens. And these different realms all mirror each other in ways, and they interconnect. But I found that when it comes to addiction, the big areas in the energy system that need to be addressed, and I feel should be addressed, and I've talked about this in another episode, is by healing the outer systems first, being the aura and then the chakras, and realigning those, and then continuing into the more physical, energetic realms of the meridian system. This helps to energetically clear your body of densities and emotions and woundings that do not serve you, and it allows you to heal in a way that is manageable, that is tolerable, and that is digestible. Because I want to go back to when I pulled that trauma out of my 3rd chakra. It was not manageable, it was not tolerable, and it actually caused a lot of shame, and I believe set me back a bit. And I asked myself at that point, I was like, there has to be a way in which you can heal these chakra systems without having these big overwhelms. And this led me on a very big, deep journey, which has brought about so much growth and so much understanding, that has allowed me to create an energy healing course that is coming out, and it'll be out soon, and you can get access to that through my page at Pick Your Potion. I will have it linked in the description. And in this course, what I have found is that it allows you to heal your energetic system from the outer layers working in, which helps to reprogram and de escalate the stress holding patterns in your energetic field so that you can really clear what's yours and you can also clear what isn't yours. Because I believe a lot of addicts take on emotions that aren't theirs, not only starting at a young age, but also when we continue to use, we're ripping open our chakra system and allowing that stuff in. At some point, the pain does become ours and it does become our responsibility. And it's unfortunate that it had to get to that point. And what I found as well is when you're doing this work, you may be the only one who's called forward to do it for a number of different reasons, if anything, just to create peace in your life, regardless of whether or not family members or friends will join you. To me, the peace that I know now is so symbolic of the journey that I've gone on. And this course is amazing because it can help you when these big things come up. I just went on a trip to New York, and it was a beautiful example of how resilient my energy field is and how I can navigate it, how I understand being a neurodivergent, because that's a part of my process. I didn't smoke cigarettes, I didn't drink, I didn't do anything, I didn't feel a craving, and there's a lot of stressful moments that came up that definitely could have warranted it. One was having my ID stolen from my room I was staying in New York. And another one was while I was at the airport, I had a trauma anniversary around a miscarriage that I had a year prior. I had had two with the same person that I had been dating, and this really broke my soul in two. And so since that time, I've really been rebuilding my life on a very profound level. And even though this journey has been deep and intense, it's been very worth it because it's allowed me not only to heal my energy field to the point where I'm not thrown about by other people's energy, which definitely can happen if you're an energy sensitive and your energy field is completely enmeshed with woundings that create holes, which allow people to siphon your energy, to take your energy, manipulate your energy. You're more vulnerable to that. And I know not all addicts are the empathetic. Maybe they are, I don't know. I've just known some addicts who tend to be the manipulators, but I do believe anyone who has addiction, that they took on something that wasn't meant to be theirs. They took on a pain that was caught in their generational cycles and curses and traumas, and it's an intense energy to deal with. And I know for myself, going through this course, I was able to pull out a lot of the generational trauma that really forged a lot of these imbalanced choices in my life. And it's just been a journey because as you heal, you take ownership, you move through it, you see where it came from, and you're able to let it go. And it's definitely a process, but that's why I love the course. Is it helps you to heal the wounds, but it also helps you to work through the big emotions. It helps you to release what isn't yours, and it helps you to work through what is, like really take true ownership. And I say this because while I was on my trip, I can see how all of this got activated, but the end result was this this trauma of remembering this child, because on this trip I had done a lot of activations. I'm a big believer in astrology, and I believe that when there are big astrology shifts, that is the universe energetically supporting you. And I did this activation around clearing masculine wounds because it was Mercury retrograde, and that is a big time where the subconscious comes out. And the first half of this retrograde was all about the feminine, and I had kind of been clearing and working through that. And then along came the masculine, and I thought it was just going to be all about doing rituals and being okay. But what came up was the need for rituals, but also this need of taking ownership of how I had hurt this child energetically who wasn't even alive, and how it was a choice made out of masculine wounding, which mirrors itself as masculine anxiety. And you don't have to be a man to have masculine anxiety. This masculine anxiety creates a lot of lack. And I created this whole bit on TikTok about the essence of where lack came from. And I will link it in the description below because it's very thorough. I don't know if I'd say thorough, but very deep in the realms of describing the core essence of where this lack came from and how it's tied into thought forms, and how as humans we get addicted to emotions, and these emotions, like one of lack, can make us make poor choices. Addiction being one, choosing a poor partner who you know won't take care of you, choosing friends that won't cherish you, staying in things longer than you should. I've had to unlearn a lot of stuff, and that stems a lot from the household that I was raised in. And there's a lot of things that I know my parents did with the best of intentions. And I love that we can work through this stuff. There's still some scarrings, and I'm sure there's still some stuff that I'll continue to work through, especially as I continue to clear this trauma, because what came up was this child, and not just because I'd had 3 planned miscarriages. And as an energy healer, I understand that we can will some stuff into being. And the last miscarriage I had was beautiful. It was planned. There was a lot of love and understanding around it, and it made me kind of realize how, if you're a parent, you make these mistakes with these kids. And even though I didn't have kids, I really saw my growth in these 3 miscarriages, and how I had more love towards myself, and better resources to handle them, because I knew what I was doing, and I had done the research, and I'd also been on my own journey. But what came up was my need to apologize and take ownership of how I hurt this soul, because this child had come into my energy field twice through 2 different partners. And the first time was when I was 24, and I had a partner that I did not want to have a child with. And it's not that I didn't want to have a child. It was the fact that being born into a Christian family, and having struggled with addiction and stuff like that, and especially in the eyes of my family, I was what I would say is a problem. I know they wouldn't say that, but I may have a different take than that, especially how they handled and treated me versus other siblings and issues. And I know that, or I don't know, I take that back. I had so much fear that I would be raising that child on my own. And I'm saying this for the sake of sharing a story. I do not recommend this. I'm not trying to encourage any of this behavior. I encourage safe sex. I encourage to think about everything, and I would never wish a miscarriage on anybody or an abortion. That choice is one that really scars your energy field very deeply, and I didn't realize how deep until this past month when it all came up and out. And I remember just bartering with God on the bathroom floor in my parents' house. I was very physically demanding on my body while doing this. And this is where I get a little bit questioning of women's safety when they are so filled with fear that they would want to hurt themselves in order to not have a baby. And there's moments where I get really mad at myself that I didn't have the strength to have the child. But I also knew where I was at on my journey, that I wasn't the best mom that I could be. And that's a promise I made, and that was part of the thing I partnered with God. I was like, if I have this miscarriage, like, I will keep the child the next time I have him, no matter what the situation. And I was almost 3 months late, and I remember having the miscarriage, and miscarriages hurt. They hurt a lot. It's not a normal period. And before I got into a situationship with this person, I wouldn't even call it a relationship. I would call it poor decision making on my end. And before I even met this person, I was dating a guy, and we ended up not working out, and it was just very hard on me because I don't open up my heart very readily to people. And I believe that's for a number of different reasons, and possibly being just neurodivergent, being very sensitive, understanding energies, and I just view relationships even more so now as being very, very sacred. So I'm very picky, and I think that's a good thing. And I'll never forget, I was laying in bed and I was crying because I was like, I need to fix something. Like, I know this didn't work out, and I'm trying to figure my life out. I just felt very lost. I remember just laying in bed, and I like envisioned in my mind's eye, and I could like these two little sparks coming down from heaven, and they just being implanted in my belly. And I remember just sitting there being like, it's you and me, kids, because there was two. I'm like, it's you and me against the world. Again, very melodramatic, but I remember just holding my belly and promising all this stuff to them, and then I get into this bad relationship, and it's ironic how you can have an experience like that and totally forget. I also know, like, when you're in those states, like when you have those higher visions and whatnot, you get, it's almost like you're asleep. So not an excuse, because this is why I believe kids come in before we even, those souls came into my body. And it was very ironic that this person, I got pregnant in August. I didn't tell them, and I had a planned miscarriage. And I was very angry and didn't share the story with this person until later. And it came out in me being very angry. And this person and I kept in contact, and they ended up moving, and you'll have to excuse me a second. Before they moved, I had gone to visit my sister, and I knew I got pregnant again. And when they left, I was late, and I had a talk with them about knowing that I was pregnant, and they didn't want to have a kid, and I did. And it's the first time in my life that I really wanted a child, just because of the stuff I'd gone through as a kid and how much damage it did to me and my family, especially my siblings. I wanted to make sure that I had done as much healing as humanly possible. I know no one's perfect when they have kids, but enough to where I could be the best me for them and grow with them and learn with them. And this person did not, and I ended up this round planning a ceremony, doing a very sacred ceremony, and I was actually able to release, and the intention was to release the spirit of the baby from my body. in a way where this soul wasn't damaged, it wasn't violated, and it could re-enter the light with greater ease and heal the mother in the process. And it ended up being a very powerful ceremony. And I ended up meeting the child, and we had a conversation. It was beautiful, and I thought that because I had that great experience that everything was good. But flash forward to just a few weeks ago, the first two miscarriages were not. And I realized how that was connected into my masculine energy, and how it was really asking me to heal these parts of me. And a part of that was taking ownership of my choices. And I know that can be hard. And I definitely went through these phases of saying, like, oh, it happened for all these reasons, and this is why I'm justified. And that's why I love this course. The more you do it, the less blame and shame you take on, and the more you can just be honest about, what your part was, move through it, really own it. Because when you really own something, your higher spirit comes in and guides you on how to release it, how to heal it, the next steps you need to do. And I felt like me and this little spirit ended up being able to reconcile. Because as a parent, I thought this was funny because I compared the three miscarriages to having kids. Like, I think, and I see this a lot in comments in the internet where kids are like, a parent can't even apologize for what they did. And I think that's really important. I think a parent should be able to apologize. And even though I didn't literally have the child, like being able to sit there and say, I'm sorry, I made these out of poor choices. Those are my choices. I could sit there and blame my parents all day, but at the end of it, it was mine. Can you forgive me? I love you. And just sitting there with that spirit, sitting there with that energy was very healing. And I'm not sure if the process is over. I feel like there is still some stuff that needs to be healed, because after that whole thing came up and out, I realized it was connected into the addiction of lack. So I'm going through this whole energy healing process again. And this is why this course is amazing. You can use it time and time again whenever big things come up, like trauma anniversaries, and you can heal your energetic woundings where they lie in your field, which will allow you to realign your energetic field so that you can heal, so that you can energetically get stronger, and so you can release it and move through it with peace. And I know firsthand that healing takes its many different layers, and it's not linear, and different things come up at different times. And so I wanted to create a course where this was possible, because that's the biggest thing that for me that I realized, especially around people with addiction, is they aren't given proper tools or understanding of their energetic system. Because in understanding your energetic system and how to heal it, which I give you a roadmap in this course, you are really able to get into the nitty-gritty. You are able to take ownership of your healing, and your higher self comes in and supports you. So, and to me, that's really important. One, so we're not reliant on other people. Two, so we can become self-reliant and empowered and know we can tap into that higher source at any time, which ironically is the biggest thing about AA, is knowing that we have a connection to a higher source. So it works hand in hand with the program, actually. And I just want to say the program was an amazing teacher, but it wasn't the end all be all for me, obviously. And for me, what I've come to understand is that in having this tool, it's allowed me to know that I have something that will support me, because on this journey, I have not had the support that I've needed. I haven't had the support from my family, even though this is the thing, they tried, it didn't help. Doctors tried to help, but it just wasn't enough. I can't take medication. I have the most rare side effects. So whenever I would try to take medication, it wouldn't work. I also didn't want to be on it because I didn't like how it felt. So that took me on a journey. I know um, there's different times where different healing modalities seem to work, but they just fell short. I just felt like there was just so many holes and so many things left unanswered. And that's why I went on this big journey. And this course and these courses that I've created is just an accumulation of all the knowledge that I've gained and firsthand experience. And with this trauma anniversary, I'm very excited to work with this wounding of lack. And I think that's the best thing about this program is it gets you excited about healing because you know that you can make it to the other side. And each time you do, your energy field becomes stronger, you become more resilient, you become less affected by the world around you, by other people's stuff. It's just such a beautiful thing, especially as someone who's an energy sensitive, neurodivergent addict. It's been a very beautiful thing. And to me, I wish people would incorporate this understanding of the energy field of trauma anniversaries and how cleansing not only your energetic field, but your physical body is super crucial. And the reason for this is your body holds on to memories, especially your liver, specifically your liver. So when I went on my healing journey, I have also incorporated healing practices of clearing the drainage pathways and working into the liver to heal my body physically because of the damage that I had put it through. But in healing my body, it also activated really deep healing. It activated generational trauma. It brought up, regressions. It brought up big emotions. And I believe it's what's made these trauma anniversaries more readily accessible because now I've done enough healing where I'm just basically pulling stuff out from a year prior. I've pretty much caught up to where my life is at this point. And for the most part, you can never really fully know what's going to come out when you heal because everybody is so different. But I'm a full believer that in healing your auric field, healing your chakras, and then once you've gone and done that, start implementing, healing in your physical body through the meridians, a meridian diet with traditional Chinese medicine, meridian healings with the seasons, and then which I have found you can then incorporate detoxifications that support your journey because you're working with the seasons, you're not working against them. And in the last year, I really started implementing that because I was just doing detoxification programs and through physical means and products on a whim and just trusting my intuition, which ironically very much so synced up with traditional Chinese medicine. But now that I understand that more readily, to me, I think it's important to implement these different styles that integrate a cyclical way of being, rhythms and cycles that tap into our energy field that help us stay grounded and centered in the knowing that we are connected to something bigger than us, which I think is crucial for people who are going through any type of healing journey, healing through trauma. It's just a way of being held through a process that might seem so diabolical at times. And I say that because you go through points where you feel like you're crazy, especially if you don't have someone who's gone through the journey before you and can hold space for you. And I had so many trained professionals who couldn't hold space for me. And I know for myself, that is why I want to offer coaching courses just to help guide people as a support who are wanting more of a spiritual support. Someone who's not going to judge you, someone who's going to explain it, but also help you move through the stuff rather than getting stuck. And I believe that this is important because I want people to move through And I want people to, if they need the support early on, to have that as almost like a parent helping a child learn how to bike. After a while, you'll know how to do it. And that's pretty much what the program does, because it gives you the tools, it gives you everything you need. And some people might be able to jump into the program and not need any mentoring, but I also know some people may need a mentor. And I believe it should be a very temporary thing, an activation to help you activate a need and a want to be your own healer. I think that is so important, which is why I created all these courses, is I wanted people to have access to a product that allowed them to be their own self-healer, allowed them to feel empowered, and allowed them access to top-notch quality services from the comfort of their own home when this stuff comes up, because that's the number one thing with addicts. It always comes up at the most unopportune moment. And so having a tool at your disposal when that happens is so comforting, because I've had so many different things that have arise, because as you're going through life, life is going to keep lifing and stuff is going to happen. And it's so powerful to me in knowing that I have a tool that I can rely on in a moment's notice. I have the tools, I have the know-how, and I can just jump into it. And I think that that is the most crucial when it comes to trauma anniversaries, because your body stores so much stuff. And in understanding how the energy systems work, understanding how to utilize your diet and the energy system of traditional Chinese medicine. Some people may want to do Ayurvedic, whatever calls to you, some type of seasonal rhythmic diet that will support you, which then you can start implementing, detoxifications to support you in clearing your body. In doing all of this, you will support your body in being able to detox not only the toxins from your body, but the emotional stuff that is stored within your body. Because what I found when it came to just doing physical practices is there was a need for spiritual or energetic practices. And what I found when I stepped back and I did only energy healing is energy healing was amazing, but once I got to a point where I had done enough energy clearings, my body was craving physical practices. And I believe there is a balance between all of them. I think it is necessary to have both. It's very much a mirroring of the yin and yang, the mother and the father, heavens and earth. Like, we need both in order to sustain our life, and honestly for me to make it all make sense in a way. And that's the biggest thing that I love this course. What this course does is it allows you access to both the Divine Mother and the Divine Father. And it truly allows you to tap into the essence of who you are through the use of depolarizing the stress that is created from emotions, that is created from traumas. And the biggest thing is clearing out the emotions. The emotions to me are the baseline for these entrapments, for these ensnarements, and these ways of being, these limiting ways of being. And through doing this course, it's brought about a lot of profound healing. And when it comes to this trauma anniversary, I know that there's still some stuff that needs to be cleared, but I know that I'm held with the process. I know that I'm, protected, I'm supported, and I feel good about it. It's rough when it came up, but the fact that I didn't go back to smoking after that happened, your girl's crushing it. And it's all thanks to this course. It's honestly thanks to so many things, like Snoop Dogg. I want to thank me, because I stuck it out. I did my research, I did my work. I want to thank my spirit team. I want to thank my family for working with me, even in their own capacity. I want to thank the people that I learned from energetically, specifically my clients. Oh my God, working on clients for 10 years was such an amazing teacher. My mentors and, the people that forced me into my healing. There are some people that I wouldn't want to thank, but I look back and I'm like, you helped my soul shift and heal. And just being able to be in this place of gratitude is a very powerful place to be, because a lot of the pain that was in my heart even a year ago is not there. And I think that's crucial too. is knowing that you'll have a tool that help you clear out the stuff when it happens. So it's not this big thing, because to me, when it comes to energy healing, it's almost like clearing up a house that a hoarder lived in. It's going to take a lot of time and like a lot of different work to get the house maybe back to normal. Some of you might have to gut it completely, but that's just depends on the person. But that's basically what, to me, energy healing is you have to go in, you have to gut everything, clear out the damp, dirty foundations, and really, or just, just foundations that were not built on a proper, have a life that was not put on proper foundation. I always think of the story of building your life on the rock, and God's the rock. I'm a pastor's kid, so you'll hear me reference Christ and church stuff. And I always wondered, I'm like, well, what the fuck is that? Because I always used to picture an uneven rock, and I'm like, how would you build a house on that? And now, to me, I'm envisioning building it on a beautiful land. And I hate that analogy of the fucking rock. It's the worst. But I love the idea of is building it in this balanced world between the masculine and feminine, the heaven and the earth. And to me, I love that I have these new pictures that I can base these foundations on, because for the longest time I could never visualize, and I know that's a big part of a lot of people's healing, but for me, I've never been able to truly visualize in the forms that are taught. So the fact that starting to be able to visualize is pretty profound. And so there's a lot of things that are coming up now and that are making room for this new foundation, making new way for this new way of being. And I'm seeing it not only in the peace that I feel, but also in how my body feels. Because when you change your energetic blueprint and you heal these things, you can really heal the physical body as well. Not just the physical, but the emotional and mental. And this is why I think it's important to teach people who desire to do this work and offer it to people who go through addiction. I think it's important. I think it's important to offer courses to help people cleanse and clear this stuff after going through miscarriages or going through abortions. This stuff is very scarring, and you don't even have to be an addict to have a need and a want for this work. 100%. I also believe that there's a need for this work in assisting people when people go through death. My grandma just passed away this last week, and I did a huge healing session with my mom, my sister, and her to help her pass on. And my mom was sharing with me how she's felt such great peace and love, and how she's very grateful for that. And if people are open, this work is amazing. And there's so many parts of me that wants to create so many different courses to support different people. But for now, what I have created is this energy healing course. And down the road, I'm not sure what's going to happen. There's so much shifting and changing, but offering, activations to support clearing the path for, people passing, for people who have had miscarriages, for people who are thinking of having miscarriages, to help those babies, ascend back up to heaven in peace, which also I know would be so loving for women who have to make that choice. Because again, it's not one I would wish upon anybody. And even mothers who have to give up for adoption. There's just so much stuff so much love that I want to bring into the world. And I'm so grateful that I have space for that now, because I didn't before. So I'm not sure where this world is going to go for me, what my world will look like in a year from now or what. But what I do know is I do have this course that is going to be available, and it's the Energy Healing Program. And again, I'll have my link in the description so you can go and visit that and look into the different courses that I offer. But the Energy Healing Program is the big one that made truly all the difference, because in healing the outer layers of the body and clearing that density, it allows you to really have greater ease in shifting your physical reality in more than one way. And it's a tool that you can utilize time and time again whenever, hardships come up, no matter what they may be. So that's what I wanted to share with you this week. And for anyone who's just going through it, I want you to know that there is hope and there is ways to support yourself. And for me, it was finding a system that made sense. And I found this system and I have it available to you to those who, want this deep healing and, feel lost and they want access to it. Like it's here, it's available now. And it's so crazy to say that and to finally have given birth to this project, which has been on my heart and soul for 18 years now and really has been in the work for the last 5 and truly in its gestation period for the last year. So it's been a crazy journey and it's really cool to see how it's supported me in this last month of quitting smoking and working through this trauma of 3, I'd say 2 miscarriages. The third one wasn't really a thing for me, but just knowing that I have something that's going to help me continually as life continues to come up is reassuring, because for most of my life I have not felt that way. And I know many addicts have felt the same. So I'm just wishing you all many blessings as we head into a new season. We'll be heading into Virgo season, a very big month for shifts and changes for sure. So I'm wishing you all the best, and I will see you in the next episode.